Hello and welcome to the Herald Gaming channel. Today we will be all donning our lovely tinfoil hats for some Guild Wars 2 story speculation about the deep sea dragon, Jormag, and the dark Lovecraftian influence, which we have been told will shape the future narrative of the Icebrood Saga. Here we will be looking at Lovecraft himself in brief, and the philosophies of his Cthulhu Mythos more deeply. But before we do, I want to offer my heartfelt thanks to all my wonderful patrons who keep this one-woman show up, running, and more or less sane. Thank you all so very much. If you would like to join them, there are links below. So, who was Lovecraft? What is Lovecraftian horror, and how could it influence the story of Icebrood Saga? Now, it's hard to overplay the influence this singular and very strange individual has had on modern Western art. From Stephen King and Clive Barker to Guillermo del Toro and Alex Garland, his reach was and is vast and invasive. But in his own life, Lovecraft was a relatively obscure American pulp magazine short story writer, poet, ghostwriter, and prolific man of letters. Now, pulp magazines were inexpensive fiction periodicals that were published from 1896 to the late 1950s. If you're interested in reading some of the original publications from Wild Tales that feature Lovecraft's work, I have popped a link below so you can head down there and explore those online. There are 64 short stories under his name, with 34 listed works that he ghost wrote and or collaborated on, as well as poems, and now hundreds of stories, films and games inspired by the dark universe he created. He was a rare writer, in fact, who invited his contemporaries to use the stories and ideas he created to expand upon his universe. He was also a racist and an anti-Semite, despite the fact that his wife Sonia Green was a Jewish writer and businesswoman. Much of his writing reflects his fear of the other races, cultures, and the darker, more nihilistic aspects of atheism. If you're interested in learning more about the struggles of his life, and it is a fascinating and tragic tale, there are links below, because this is not a biography of the man, but an overview of the mythos he created and how it could relate to the Guild Wars universe. Born in the fires of his fear and prejudice, the twisted universe he created is filled with inscrutable deities of nightmarish aspect, mountainous eldritch horrors, and alien invaders. The vastness of deep time, too, played on this eccentric man's psyche. For the human mind, the notion of 13.7 billion years, the current estimated age of our universe, is simply incomprehensible in any meaningful fashion. The fleeting nature of human existence, the fragility and impermanence of our race, is laid bare in his every ink stroke. For Lovecraft, humanity was just a mote of dust, an amoeba on the stage of immortal titans. In fact, many lore masters of the Cthulhu Mythos hold to the notion that the stage upon which this epic saga plays out is but the fever dream of an elder god. Outside the ordered universe, in that amorphous blight of nevermost confluence, which blasphemes and babbles at the centre of all infinity, the boundless demon Sultan Azathoth, whose name no lips dare to speak aloud, and who gnaws horribly in inconceivable, unlit chambers beyond time and space, amidst the muffled, maddening beat of drums and the thin, monotonous whine of accursed flutes. From this demon sultan came the great old ones, Nyarlathotep, the nameless mist, and the darkness, who in turn birthed a cornucopia of monstrous creatures. As a reader, we learn of this nightmarish cabal through the eyes of modern man, or at least modern in the 1920s and 30s. In The Call of Cthulhu, for example, we follow a middle-class scholar who stumbles upon letters and research in his dead uncle's effects. Thinking himself on a journey of scientific discovery and hungering to gain academic acclaim, our protagonist is led down a dark path. On his journey, he encounters many people driven mad after a storm, raving of monsters in the deep. Artists, continents apart, afflicted by nightmares of a sunken ancient metropolis, the aspect of which would confound Escher. They all spoke of a voice calling to them in an alien tongue, and of a monstrous winged demon. As a modern reader, I find it hard to classify these stories in the true horror category. They seem more akin to dark psychological dramas, which deal with the terrible influence these elder beings have on the minds of men and the inevitability of humanity's demise. Though there is murder and terror and violence in these pages, I think for Lovecraft, the true horror arose from the insignificance of humanity, its weakness, its corruptibility. Monsters in his universe inhabited our world eons before the Triassic period. Monsters who still wait in the deep and hidden places of the world, just waiting for the stars to change, infecting the minds of men as they sleep through the ages. Cults of men and lesser abominations worship and wait for Cthulhu's rising, when he will remake the world. In Lovecraft's reimagined world, humanity was but a mistake, an escaped experiment of another invading species who took up residence on this blighted rock. How could Lovecraft's dark, reimagined human and terrestrial history be transposed over the world of Kirya? Lovecraft's great old ones are cosmic entities. In fact, Azathoth resides in another dimension of reality, and it is his spawn that have infected the physical universe and who invaded the primordial mirror Earth he invented. So could the immortal, inscrutable elder dragons, much like the transplanted humans, be in fact invaders? In evolutionary terms, their cycles of feast and famine are far too frequent for life to have evolved in those brief respite periods between. We know too that it is possible for powerful beings to traverse these planes with relative ease. So, this hypothesis sits well within the established canon of the universe. If the elder dragons are indeed trespassers on Kirya, what world do they hail from? What drove them from it? Are they perhaps the last of their kind, fleeing a dead world consumed by their insatiable hunger? Could this invasion and occupation be part of their race's culture, with countless planets across the mists held in thrall by these powerful, malevolent devourers? On Lovecraft's Earth, the pernicious influence of the great old ones and their spawn on the lesser races cannot be understated. Not only were these beings able to infiltrate the minds of mortals, damning them to madness and enthralling them, but they too could twist their forms into abstractions of horror. One race of alien invaders was able to transport their consciousness across the vastness of space and time, taking the host's body for their own. Could this be how the dragons were corrupted, if indeed they were a native Tyrian species? Could they have been distorted and corrupted by an invasive alien presence? Indeed, Glint was cleansed of her corruption, freed from the mind prison of Kraukatorek. What a tragic tale it would be, a race enthralled and turned against their home. Redemption narratives are always very compelling, you know. To support this notion, we can look to the physical changes which Aurene underwent during her ascension, which readily demonstrate the fluidity of dragon physiology. Indeed, this is a trait they share with humans, a race from another world beyond the myths, so perhaps that undercuts the idea of dragon kin being a native species. We all need more information. The Great Dreamer, the Sleeper of Arle, Cthulhu, introduced in the short story The Call of Cthulhu, is the most famed Great Old One. You may not know his name, but you will have seen his likeness in games, movies, and books. His tentacled visage has horrified and inspired artists and creators for generations. Gosh, even Metallica penned Hardwired to Self-Destruct in his honor, and I think it is likely this big, tentacled boy has won over the hearts of the ArenaNet writing team, and who can blame them? So let's compare Cthulhu to the mysterious Deep Sea Steve and his ice kin, Jormag. Let's see if we can find some common ground and narrative hooks the writers could use to infect Kirya with some yummy Lovecraftian drams. Now, Cthulhu sleeps in Arle, the Escher-esque city of cyclopean horror, which currently languishes on the seafloor of the Pacific Ocean. Sadly, this great big boy is trapped there at the moment, but fear not. One day when the stars have changed, he and it will rise. Now, we as players know the dragons sleep for thousands of years, but we don't know why. No explanation has been offered, well, at least that I can find. I personally took for granted this was some physiological necessity of their kind, but I have a drive to understand why things are the way they are. So what reason could a writer use to make a compelling story around that need? Thinking about their hibernation, it seems strange that immortal beings with magical prowess matching that of the 6 old gods would need to spend most of their eternal existence unconscious. What are they doing whilst they sleep, other than losing their essential life force? In Lovecraft's world, the cycles of stars, the celestial machinations of the universe seem to hold some sway over the great old ones, so could this be true of the dragons? Now, we have all seen the almost clockwork mechanics of Tyrya's magical cycle, but what fundamental laws are driving this engine? There is little to zero creation myth for Guild Wars 2. The gods, as we understand them, are merely powerful beings with expansive life spans. So perhaps the writers could lead us down a dark path of discovery to understand the true nature of the reality, or indeed realities, we inhabit. To understand where the dragons came from, who created them, why they are here. This would fit well with the Lovecraft theme. The player, through relics of antiquity and adventure, uncover the horrific nature of the greater universe. But this always leads to despair and disaster for the unwitting heroes of the Cthulhu Mythos. As much as I love the extended universe of art and novels, to truly embrace the RPG heart of this MMO, the most profound story reveals need to be found inside the gaming universe itself. Let me know if you think the writers will start to illuminate the greater stage upon which our story is playing out. Cthulhu's motives are unknown. In fact, many of the old gods and their spawn are amoral and indifferent to the woes of the lesser races. In truth, they are so different, so removed from the human experience as to be impenetrable. The motives and drivers for such beings are so far beyond the myopic mortal frame of reference that all linear concepts of morality wither in their presence. Could one say this of the elder dragons? I would argue, yes. These seemingly immortal beings seek to consume magic, but also seem eager to embrace the lesser races, ending their short, bitter lives and granting them a seemingly eternal existence, blessing them with their elemental divine essence. Now, you can argue free will is the price that mortals often unwillingly pay for this gift, but look at the sons of Svanir. They are not mindless drones. Hell, some of them still live with their kin in Holbrack. So it is entirely possible these creatures are simply working off a different moral hymn sheet, thinking their corruption a gift to all lesser, fleeting species. Do we not extend the lives of the animals we keep in captivity? Are they not cared for and protected? The lesser races, which to an elder dragon I would imagine would be all other species, are but house pets. Useful at times, entertaining at times, and always lucky to have such a kind caretaker. Now, you may balk at this analogy, as it cuts a little bit too close for comfort to the reality of human arrogance, self-aggrandizement, and entitlement, which is arguably the root cause of much of which ails our civilization. But, gosh, doesn't it fit well, especially in light of the Icebrood Saga trailer. Here, let Jormag tell you himself.
You do not fear death. You fear something far worse. You fear outliving the ones you swore to protect. You fear the day your children no longer feel the chill of the frost, or the warmth of the flame. It is this fear that is your enemy, not I. The prison in which all races of Kirya suffer. But you need not fear me, champion. For I can set you free. Join me, and you shall have the strength to protect your people in the trials to come. Stand against me, and you stand alone.
Have you heard the call? The dragon came to me in a dream. He is not the enemy. Only those who oppose his will. Ice fortifies. Ice protects. He is not to be feared, but embraced. He takes care of his own. Listen carefully, and you will hear his name. Give yourself to him, and you will know no fear, only power. This is the offer, the temptation to a world which has known nothing but death and fear and war. The narrative team could plague the player with visions, throwing us into dark mindscapes we must battle through to retain our free will. Jormag could attack our friends, breaking their minds, turning them against us, and perhaps even driving them to take their own lives. Many good men in Lovecraft's world choose death over surrender or corruption. There could well be internal fighting as nations battle a fifth column of terrified citizens simply wanting an end to the nightmare. The writers could isolate the player, making them question the motives of the people they once trusted. How do you measure free will, free action, and choice in the face of such an insidious influence? The writers said they were going to embrace the dark side. So could our Mary Sue character finally be gifted with a deeper, more real and darker personality? Let me know what you think below. The true nature and history of the dragons is hidden. We know nothing of Deep Sea Steve, not even its name. But I have to believe this is by design. Abaddon, god of secrets and water, comes to mind. This keeper of hidden knowledge could well be the template from which Steve's character arose. Lest we forget, one incantation from Abaddon's lost scrolls felled a continent. Could these lost scrolls be the Guild Wars 2 version of the Necronomicon, a Lovecraftian book which contains not just eldritch incantations, but the knowledge of the ages? Would it not be every lore nerd's dream to piece together this cookbook of creation, finally seeing the universe in all its immense and terrible beauty? Now, I think the writers have taken the idea of Cthulhu and bifurcated his character, giving traits to both Jormag and Steve, mind and menace to Jormag, and the dread deeps of hidden horrors and knowledge to Steve. If they are brave, the Icebrood Saga could be a dark descent into madness and betrayal, the player facing the consequences of uncovering knowledge at deadly cost. If and how Primordus fits into this tale is unclear, and personally banking on a new saga being born from this fiery lord of the molten deeps. Now, in more general terms, I would prepare yourself for invasions from the ocean, coastal towns and cities falling under the dark influence of the deep-sea dragon, tidal wave of refugees landing on our shores too, pushed out and forced onto the land. Expect shipping lanes to become deadly and missions to rescue sailors turning into nightmare races back to the shore. We could see actual tidal waves too, wiping out cities like Lion's Arch, the Grove, and even Amnoon, if the devs are daring and inventive enough with their layering technology. The old world needs a facelift. The content there is not comparable to the newer expansion gameplay, not even close. But this does go against their frozen in time map ethos, but we can hope. I would also prepare for Aurene and Dragon's Watch to be pressed on all fronts, as Jormag and Steve, both shook by the fall of their kin, taking direct and indirect action to ensure their survival. I would also imagine we are in for some good old-fashioned Indiana Jones-style adventure too, perhaps in darker, more focused story missions. Lovecraft's stories are journeys of discovery. The Call of Cthulhu is almost a noir supernatural detective novel, and happily this is not a new concept to the game, at least not for Season 1 players. Now, how the devs with their loathing of aquatic content are going to deal with the unending ocean and its Elder Keeper, well, that's anyone's guess. But could we see the reimagining and rebalancing of underwater combat? Could the devs employ some sort of nifty lead boots mechanic to orientate the players to the seabed, allowing for more conventional combat? It's been done before in other games to great effect. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope they make Icebrood Saga a lore-rich, psychologically taxing and visually stunning epic. I also hope they have the courage to, if and when they kill another main character, to stick to it. No Joko claws, just real, gutting, raw loss. One of the major themes of Lovecraft's work is the isolation of the protagonist, the feeling they are alone in a world they thought they understood, which is changing, revealing itself to be darker and deadlier the further down the path of enlightenment they travel. Lovecraft's heroes are almost always hopeful and honourable souls in the beginning, but as the curtain closes on their tale, they are broken, beaten, and facing their end. So this could get very dark indeed. What role Aureen will play in this drama is unclear. She is beyond us now, ascending beyond the mortal sphere into the realm of the Elder Ones. How this will affect her actions and motivations in this dark new landscape will be fascinating. Because as much as I love the sweet, brave child she was, if the writers are truly to embrace the Cthulhu Mythos, she too must be allowed to evolve. Or perhaps devolve. I hope you enjoyed my Lovecraft Guild Wars 2 mashup of lore and speculation. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, ring that bell so I don't disappear into the dark mists of YouTube, and please do show some love to Kildare, Cody, Kyle Nelson, Cobb, Jolly Joestar, Molini, Dark Griever, and all my wondrous Patreons, without whom I would be unable to dedicate the time and resources I do to my content creation. Thank you all so very much. If you'd like to join them, there are links below. And if you feel inspired to jump into Guild Wars 2, there are referral links down there too, to the free-to-play game and the Path of Fire expansion, which now includes all the content from the Heart of Thorns expansion too. Using any of these referral links directly supports my channel, but costs you not a penny more. Now, I hope you will join me again for more Guild Wars 2 goodness very soon, but until then, as always, thanks for watching.